Hello, welcome to the node.js Foundation Build Workgroup meeting, the 28th of March. In attendance so far, we have myself, Michael Dawson, Joe Rice, Gibson Finchuk, Rod Vag, Michael Capra, Kunopathik, and Kyle Farnett. So let's get started with the startup as usual. Myself, sometime helping and participating in the investigation of I/O disk speed issues on AIX related to SIGIM testing. A little bit of work on setting up the NPM user for Node.js Foundation modules in terms of managing them, and a bit of work on landing the supported platforms PR across the different versions. So far, it's landed in master and 6, and I just submitted 4.x earlier today. Johan isn't here, but he forwarded us that he's been working on, he worked on Jenkins master security updates. There were 2 of them. He's been working with the tap to JUnit parser. And I guess there's some issues with it working in SIGIM. He fixed some disk issues on joint FreeBSD workers and housekeeping on a few of the other workers. Joe, I think you're next in the list here.
Yes, I've been working on adding more platforms to the CI test jobs for Node Chakra Core, Linux and OXS for now. And I've worked on adding support for Visual Studio 2017 in NodeGIP. That pull request has landed. So, Gibson?
Yep, so I had been looking at the test NPM jobs that Johan created for me last time. I've got them running on Windows and Unix. It's just a question of getting all the tests to pass and work out why they're not passing and if it's sort of an NPM issue or a script issue. I've also been having a look at the tap to JUnit, looking to implement that in our internal jobs and hopefully in SIGIM as well with Johan. And there was a couple of AX tweaks that we've had to do recently, including one today to add a RAM disk to one of the test machines, which has had quite a noticeable speed up. It's decreased the SIGIM build time from about an hour to 10 minutes or something. So yeah, that's it.
Wow, well done.
Yeah, that's good because that was the last platform that we needed to get in line to basically have coverage. Although remind me, Gibson, do we already have it running on ARM?
I think it should run on ARM. I don't think we will be running. I don't think we are currently running our full regression tests because it would take quite a long time. We'd probably want to look at a fanned solution like we have in build, I suspect.
Okay, so it was. I guess it was the AX was the last one other than ARM.
Yeah, well, Windows. So Windows, we're not really running it. We're kind of still working on getting compatibility and making sure the modules are working. Because obviously every module has to have an NPM test script that actually works in Windows, which they don't all. Yeah, so yeah, ARM needs to be looked at. Windows, that's probably about it.
Okay, well, it's good. One more platform ticked off the list. Okay, Michelle Capra.
Yeah, thanks. So during this last period, I've been working on a module for creating the .remina file. So now we should be able to plug it as it is an Ansible module into the build, so we can then provision those files that are necessary to remotely connect to machines. And yeah, the PR is still open, so Chow should review it soon. And yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I think Kunal, you'd be next.
Yeah, like from last time, like I was working on Windows Server 2016, adding it to the jobs. But yeah, that was pretty much it. That's already running right now, Windows Server 2016.
Okay, so basically working on adding Windows 2016.
Yeah, that's already done.
Okay. Okay. And I guess, sorry, and the last, Kyle Farning, did you want to add in as well?
No. I'm just getting up to speed to help Kunal out.
Okay. Okay, sounds good.
I think I'm next. Am I on?
Yeah, Rod. Okay, sorry. Yeah, you're next.
Yeah, just minor test cluster maintenance, both ARM and this cloud stuff. There was a weird issue with a DigitalOcean box that Rich pointed out, the CentOS x86 box, but I did an update and a reboot, and it seems to be happier now. So it's very strange. Some networking things going on there. But that's all from me.
Okay, so I think that's everybody. So as long as if I have missed you, move on. Let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the regular agenda items. We'll start with the list that was in the issue. I'm just going to copy those into the actual minutes doc here. Just a sec.
You missed me, but I have nothing to report, so that works out well.
Okay, but do we have you at least on the attendance list? I don't think so. Can you add yourself to the minutes there?
Yeah, let me go find the doc, but I'll take care of that, sure.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so moving on to the agenda. So the first one is 657, move Node.js readable stream CI from Travis to Jenkins. I think, Gibson, I saw you were involved in some of that discussion, so maybe if you can pick that one up.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, the readable stream, basically, obviously, they don't want to have to change their Travis CI again, because every time they do that, Travis has to be enabled for the whole org, and that causes some permission issues. So they were talking about moving to use CI in the same way that Node Report, Node Inspect, and some other Node.js core projects have done. Matteo had a couple of things that he said were perhaps more difficult. So I thought I just check. This might be a quick way to find out whether or not this is something, the kind of thing we could do. So if you look at his last comment, the opening up a server, is that the kind of thing we could have a machine that did?
Maybe you can give a little bit more context there.
So he said the test suite opens up a server accessible to the world, and then has some other thing connect to it with various browsers from outside of our CI. So I guess the question is, can we set up local tunnel environments on one of the machines to run the test?
Do we even need a local tunnel? Like, I think those machines are accessible over the internet in general.
Yeah, is local tunnel? I think it's part of their. It must be part of their script to do it. I think that's probably there's probably a thing that does a special source labs tunnel, but I don't see why that would be a problem with our servers at all. They're not particularly strictly firewalled or anything.
Okay, I guess if we can get if it's easy enough to get have access from the outside world, then that's straightforward.
Well, I think what goes on here is that they actually connect to source lab, so the tunnel is exposed internally, so that you don't even need to connect from the outside world. So the answer is yes to both of those situations. So
okay, great. So I'll put a comment in there then saying that that should be fine, and we'll go ahead and try and get something set up and see if we run into any issues.
Yeah, if we do run into, I mean, I know there were some discussions before, like around multicast and stuff, where on some machines the default firewall rules weren't permissive enough, but that's probably something we need to resolve anyway. So yeah, sounds like the right way to go.
Right.
Okay. So I'm just taking notes. So Gibson will continue to work with them to implement, and there are any issues. One quick question: do you know if their testing has any platform specific? Like, does it depend on the underlying OS or, Windows, Unix, that kind of stuff?
I don't know.
I'm just curious whether we need to run it across, like, all the architectures, or, whether we should do one architecture or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure. As I understand it, some of their tests are actually node tests, but they run them with a readable stream turned on or in some fashion. So
Okay.
I'm not sure how much special kind of stuff they actually have other than the local tunnel source labs thing. I'll
Okay.
find out.
Well, I
From
guess
Michaela.
generally running more broadly is better, even if it's not specific, because you'll get more timing and all that kind
and
of stuff.
if it's quick, there's kind of no downside, right? If it's just a couple
exactly.
Of minutes.
So yeah, unless there's some real reason, we should just have it running across all platforms. Sounds good.
Yep.
Okay. So any more discussion on that, or should I move on to the next issue? Okay, I'll take silence as move on. So the next one is add Kunal Pathak to the build work group, issue 649. Let me just open that up to see. Sorry, go ahead.
I opened that one. Kunal has helped me heading the Windows Server 2016. Actually, he did all the work there, and it would be a great help maintaining the Windows Server if I'm not available. Then yes, he could have access and he could do. He could help us a lot there. So I'd like to add him to the build working group. I only noticed after opening the issue that he is not a collaborator on Nodecore. I don't know if that's a big problem because he has been maintaining Node Chakra Core for a long time and has a few commits there. So
yeah, and for context, Kunal works for Microsoft, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we've already given him fairly broad access to the build infrastructure. Like he's in the Jenkins admins already, as far as I remember.
Yes.
The other question, my optimistic question is he going to have time to help out with other build activities as well?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I will have some bandwidth, to look into other build issues, and I'm following up the IRC node chat and then the issues that are open on build, just to get my head around like whatever issues you face. So I'll be happy to help.
Okay. So in terms of moving forward on this, I guess it's does anybody have any objections? I guess the question is, can we just agree here, or should we take it back to GitHub to have people vote? What's people's preference?
We could probably just settle it here, right? I mean,
Yeah, I'm certainly okay with that. Is there anybody uncomfortable with doing that?
Nope, all good.
Nope. Okay, so basically, I think I'd say is for the people here, is there any objections?
Nope.
Nope. So if everybody comfortable if I record everybody who's here as a +1 on that issue?
Yep.
Okay, we'll go ahead and agree that it's carried then, and I'll record as that after the fact. So I'll take a note right there now. Okay. Just gonna try and get the typing to work here. Everybody, meeting agreed. Okay, so carried. Moving on to the next issue, file and directory names for downloads. This is 515. Now I know there was some discussion that we might have decided that some of these should have been moved off. Like we should have removed the agenda tag from the previous discussion, but let me just reopen this one. Okay, so this, I think this is one of the ones, I think this one and the next one on the draft HTS, we just agreed should go back to GitHub. So does anybody remember differently? Okay, I'm just going to double note that. Move agenda tag and discuss in GitHub. Okay, the same thing was for those two. So 515, the HTS and the file and directory downloads. So I'm just noting that for those two. Okay, tap plugin issues. So 484, let's see. I know there was some discussion by both Johan and Gibson in terms of, sorry, that wasn't 484. Tap plugin 453.
Yeah, with this one, I'm not sure. I suspect there's another one that should have had the tag removed. It just needs people to do some more work to get it working on all the different types of tap we have, and then we can just start using it.
Okay, so I'm going to write that in these. Just give me 1 sec to do that. Okay, done. Okay, I think I've got this now. Sorry. Come on. Okay, Okay, so that was what was on our regular agenda. Now, there was a couple of things that were also added in the issue by Johan, so I'm going to go back and open those up. So, right. I'm going to copy those in. Okay, did that paste properly? Sorry. Control V, come on. Okay, there we go. So the first one, come on. The Google Doc is not cooperating with me. Okay. So Mac OS workers for discussion. So we had an operating with led to this and then back to sleep. After we sort of what we thought, we can revisit the opportunity to increase the redundancy in OS of the versions tested. So what was this?
Yeah, so this was a we had one of the Mac Cloud people reach out to us, wanting, well, they wanted a membership to the foundation in exchange for stuff, which we agreed that we weren't going to do. Like we have a firewall between us and the foundation, essentially. So we're not going to like we can't and we won't offer that. But we were trying to come up with a response that was that would give them enough meat to make it worthwhile. And that's one of the sticking points we had, was that we were not highly confident with what we can offer to our sponsors and say, look at what you get. You know, you get your name blasted all over these places. And so we sort of were circling around that idea of bolstering that sort of offering and saying your name goes here and here, and you know, this is the way we recognize you, and occasionally we might write blog posts and stuff like that. But I think the step forward here is like, instead of just getting hung up on and working on our end, is we need to just email them back directly and have a conversation with them about what we can't offer, and then see if we can find out what we can offer that would be interesting to them.
Do you have the action to, or is it Johan who has the action to close the loop with them?
Look, I think to be honest, it really got stuck in my. I was the one that was holding this one up because I just couldn't come up with a response and then got busy. But given that we are in a pretty dire situation with our Mac OS workers, it really does need to be taken care of.
Okay. So moving forward, do you want to, like, you've had the relationship with them so far? Is that Like, would it make sense for you and somebody else? Like, I could join in with you in the discussion, and then there'd be multiple people that could kind of keep that going, or
Yeah,
a good way to...
that might be good actually. Maybe I'll let me find this email. I can't even remember. Max Stadium, I think they were.
Yeah.
Oh, it's in the issue, isn't it? All right. Yeah. Look, I'll try and get that email out today and include you and Johan, and we'll see how we go from there.
Okay, sounds good, and we'll... Hey, Johan. So I'm going to say is Rod to get email out today and include Michael and Johan, and we'll try to push forward. So yeah, it'd be nice to close on that, or I guess our other backup was to actually just get some funds and pay one of the providers, right?
Sorry, what was that? What was that last thing?
But our other alternative was to just get some money from the foundation and pay some of the providers, right? Like
yes, and it was clarified that we do have budget allocated if we really need to go and get it from the foundation.
Right, and I suppose even with we don't necessarily want to go there right away. Anyway, okay, yeah, let's see what we can do. This, and then we'll figure out.
I think we should treat that as last resort, but also recognizing that this is really important to get this sorted out.
Yeah. Definitely, because we're basically only not testing on enough diversity, I don't think, right?
Well, we're down to we're actually essentially down to one box.
Yeah. Okay. Then we really let's. Okay, on to the next one. Then was the bus factor. So Johan, there was a little bit of discussion through GitHub. I made a suggestion that maybe we try and list a bunch of positions, or not the positions, but sort of areas where people contribute and have a primary backup. His question is, what would some of the positions be? We want everybody to be able to help out, but I think by sort of calling some of those out, it might help us make sure we at least have 2 people who are comfortable in the different areas. I'm thinking in some of the categories would be things like coverage across the different platforms. You could see Windows, you could see, maybe Unix. I don't know if it makes any sense to break them down based on the providers. Does it take some extra knowledge or skill to get at some of the VMs on particular providers?
I don't think it does. If we had AWS, then maybe, because that's so complicated, but I think it's pretty straightforward what we have.
Okay, so we might start by saying, okay, here one would be we need to keep our workers up, so that would be across each of the platforms that's different enough that we need to list a couple people. We could do that. We could, I think Jenkins is another one that comes immediately to mind. Secrets is another one. There's special access for releases and the release machines. I think there's some, there's the website. So if we maybe just all collaborated in GitHub on a list like that, that might be a good way to get started. And then we could, call out to say, who do we have that is comfortable to step into each of those things? And if there's not enough, start to try and fill out that area, that particular matrix. Any other suggestions or ideas on that front? So maybe if
it's such a tricky one because of the need for security, but I think one of the easiest ways to get people involved, I think, is maintenance of the individual workers. So saying to people that there is, because very often we'll have Rich and others in IRC saying there's a problem with this node. And somebody needs to address it, and then it just goes unanswered because those of us that have access are, either not there or preoccupied. But the access to the test workers, I think there's a fairly low bar for security there. It's compared to the release workers and Jenkins. The test workers are fairly straightforward. So that's a good way and a good entry point, I think, for some people to, if they have experience with just even basic systems administration, you don't really need much at all. Having people there in that IRC channel ready to respond.
Yeah, go in and clean up background processes or whatever, and
rebooting, updating, whatever. Yeah.
Okay, but I think if we got the overall list, that would be a good starting point, and then we could actually fill in the, start with the easier ones, right? Like, the test workers may be the obvious one, but even, some of the other ones are just as important, but, we may need to fill those in and make sure we have enough people in from the existing people with coverage, right? For example, if we think we need more people who could step in and fix Jenkins things, we can see if we've got any volunteers here who can step up to that as well. Okay, so maybe a first step is, I'll say, Michael, to open an issue to capture a list, or an issue to discuss the list of areas. Make sense? And then once we have that, we can move forward for how we fill in each individual one.
Sure.
Okay, so those are the two things that Johan had mentioned. Anything else that anybody else wants to add to the agenda for this week? Thinking there was one that's escaping me now, though.
I don't know if it's part of the agenda, but I just wanted to check with Joao if the work on adding the VA tests to the build on Windows is still relevant and a top priority.
I think so. I think it's still relevant.
Okay, so I'll be working on that.
It's certainly helped on the other platforms to catch issues, so I think it's a good thing.
Perfect. So I'll go on with that. Thanks.
I'm trying to think. I thought there was one other thing related to the infrastructure, but I can't remember what it is, so we'll go back to GitHub. So if we don't have any other issues, let me see if I can tell from GitHub if there's anybody watching, and we can then see if somebody would want to ask any questions. It does show 6 viewers. So if you would like to ask a question either by posting it on the issue for the meeting in GitHub, or does anybody have access on IRC where we can then check for questions there too right now? I'll take that as a no, so I'm gonna see if I can log in here quickly.
Sorry, I'm on IRC.
Okay, so Rod's on IRC. So again, if you have a question, there's on the build topic, just post it there, and we'll give a few minutes to see if anybody has questions. I'm just checking the issue again to see if anybody's posted anything there. No. So let's just give one more minute for any questions on IRC, then we'll call it a day.
Is Caleb up, Emma? Sorry, I'm talking to my daughter here. I haven't got
no
myself on
problem.
No questions on IRC.
Okay, so I think I'm just doing one last check on the issue itself. Oh, I asked a question on IRC. Was a comment from William. You see that one, Rod?
No.
Okay.
In maybe node dev he did. Oh, there in node dev. Okay. Why the apprehension not to spend the foundation's money? I'm begging you to spend the money while I hold back. So I've made this point multiple times that the apprehension is that once we open that tap, then we have to turn it on. So the apprehension is simply around the fact that we have built a resource of community and ecosystem donated resources, and we have the clear claim that we don't pay for resources, but as soon as we demonstrate a clear willingness to pay for resources, then why wouldn't DigitalOcean come to us and say, well, this is kind of expensive, can you start paying for it? Same with Rackspace, etc. So it's either so the idea is to first of all exhaust the options to get things donated so that we can make it clear. Sorry, I'm not thinking clearly here this morning, but do this via community, and if we just can't do it because the Mac OS resources, if we can't get them sorted out, then we really need to do something. So yeah. So William, yeah, I mean, it might sound drastic, but it's still working. This is not end of the world situation here. But yeah, so it's just a matter of actually exhausting that their contact there. So we have a contact with Mac Stadium that we're going to follow up. And there is no deadline because it's working.
Okay, let's just see. So that's our one question. Let's see if there's any other questions. Okay, I don't see any. You don't see any other questions on IRC, Rod?
No.
Okay, well, I think we'll call it a day. Our next meeting is in 3 weeks as per the calendar on April the 18th. So we'll see you all then. Bye.
Cheers.